appreciate y'all coming out this evening to do some introductions. My name is Evans Bailey. This is Ryan White, and we have Derek Fraley. Derek from over the Pryor Creek area. Ryan's from over near Skytube, and I'm from the Oklahoma City area, but grew up in southeastern Oklahoma. We are volunteers from the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research organization, and so we are here to talk about what we do and how to get in touch with us and things like that. Kind of research that we do, take sighting reports, do site investigations, things like that. So Ryan is our public information officer for our organization. We have volunteers all over the state. We've got the state divided up into districts, and we have people in each district that you can contact through our website if you'd like to make a sighting report, that sort of thing. Ryan will show you how to make a sighting report through the website, and how to, and also that we keep our own sighting database, and you can look and see all the reports that have come in across Oklahoma. So I'm just going to reference our website here, NOBRO.org, NOBROBigfoot.org. I'm sorry, yes, and use that to kind of guide you through. So I thought we'd kind of do maybe three things this evening. I would talk about parts on the website, and then Ryan's going to talk about the sighting reports, database, that sort of thing. And then we'd like to hear of local encounters. So if you have had a local encounter with these creatures, would you mind, if you don't mind, raising your hand? Anybody had a local encounter? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Don't be shy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do it.
This is a safe place to share, and that's mainly what NOBRO tries to provide, is a safe place with volunteers that you can contact and tell about your encounter, your experience, and a friendly voice to listen, to record it. We're trying to document as much evidence as we can to try to get attention from the scientific community, like being able to present evidence to them. That's what we're all about. But then, so we would like to hear some encounters. And if you don't want to say it in front of the crowd, that's fine. We'll be around here afterwards. You're welcome to come up and share a story with us. So, well, they're cool. She's here. Just a second. Let me
We got one chair right here.
One chair.
Yeah.
You probably sit one or two folks here.
If you can get down there and get back up.
Okay, we'll be thinking about that, and if you want to decide you want to share your experience, we would love to hear about it later. We'll kind of tell you about our experiences and how we got involved and that sort of thing. In fact, on the way here today, Ryan and I stopped in McAllister and did a site investigation, interviewed a witness, things like that. So maybe we'll hear from him later on this evening. So, but anyway, our organization was formed a few years ago, prior to the pandemic, and it was kind of started out of the Honubby Bigfoot Conference. Has anybody ever heard of the Bigfoot Conference down in Honubby, Oklahoma? It's way down in southeast Oklahoma, kind of as you're on your way to Beaver's Bend, Idabel, places like that, Broken Bow, Hochtown. Honubby is back in the hills there. Kiamichi Mountains, right. Intersection of Highway 144 and what's called Indian Highway. It used to be the trail from Tallahena down to Broken Bow. It was called Indian Highway, and actually started out as a trail through the mountains, and then was eventually made into a road, and then a gravel road, and then was finally paved by the state a few years ago, and it's called Indian Highway. So that's where Honubby is, and the conference is every year, first weekend of October, at the Kiamichi Mountains Christian Mission Camp, what they call Christ's 40 Acres there on Honubby Creek. And so there was some folks that were organizing, been involved in organizing the conference each year. They decided to start a research organization, part of that. And the 3 founding members were native tribal members, Creek, Choctaw, and Cherokee. And what the reason they wanted to form an organization was they wanted to make sure that the tribal perspectives were included in the discussion about these creatures, because all of the tribes of North America, and particularly the tribes here in Oklahoma, they all have teachings, traditions, stories about these creatures. They all have a name for them. Some tribes have more than one name, depending on the experience they've had with them. And so they wanted to make sure that that was included, because they had been here for hundreds of years and had interacted with these creatures. And so that's kind of the angle, the perspective that this organization will take to include tribal traditions. You don't have to be Native American to be in the organization, but it was started by tribal members, and that's one of the perspectives that we have. In fact, on our website here, we have one of the sections is called Tribal Traditions, and it has for as many tribes as we could find the information from, it has the names of these creatures and some of the stories, the lore, and teachings about the creatures, and their names in the different languages. So that's one area. If you get a chance to go to the website, you might want to look through that and see. And a lot of the teachings, traditions from the different tribes, depends on the experiences they've had with these creatures, whether good or bad. So that's where that comes in. Kind of get an idea. What's nice is, Ryan will probably expand on this, but some of the witnesses that have sent in reports to us, they also have included drawings, and these are some of the drawings included of the different Native American names for these creatures and stories behind them. Like I said, we have investigators, volunteer. We're all just volunteers with day jobs and things like that. But we have the state divided up into districts, and there are coordinators, volunteer coordinators, investigators in each district, and there's contact information for them. And so, what do we do? What are we looking for? We're looking for evidence. We're looking for sighting reports. Ryan keeps our sighting map and our sighting database. And then we also do site investigations, and then we also do expeditions. Our organization does, where we go out and we'll spend 2 or 3 days in certain areas trying to gather and collect evidence. So, or if we have someone that sends us a report and has evidence, footprints, that sort of thing, then we will travel to that area and try to collect as much evidence as we can. Derek from Pryor contacted us a few months ago, and we've been out to Derek's place doing some site investigations, and he had found some unusual stuff on his property starting back last deer season, and that started the conversation, and then we came out and we've had some real interesting surveys on the property. So, and he's also brought in some of the casts that he has found on his property, and we do have some photos of those we can show later. But that's the kind of things that we're looking for. As we've already talked about before the program started, some of the footprints.
Turning the lights off, there's ventilator.
Oh, no, if you turn it off, it turns the TV off.
Okay, well, yeah, we can. Sorry, I'll deal with it.
One of the interesting things up here that we have is this piece of, doesn't come apart. It's unusual looking. And somebody said, well, what is that material? That was found in Stinchcomb Marsh, northwest of Oklahoma City. And what had happened was the marsh had dried out. You know, we had that extended period of drought, and the marsh had dried out. But surrounding the marsh was some giant 8-foot cattails. and they become the flowers on the cattails, those brown tubular things have begun to fall apart with the seeds inside. It coated everything. So what we think was that the marsh had started to really dry out, and the wind had blown the seed and it collected on the surface. And then as these Bigfoot walked through the marsh, it was actually pressing the seed down into the trap. These are some pictures of that here, along with. And there you can see the height of the cattails and how the fluff, I guess you call it fluff, that's the seeds of cattails had coated the ground, and whenever they stepped, they were just literally pressing those seeds right down into the mud there. So we found that you could just really easily just peel that out of the bottom of the track, and so that was one of those that has survived. But they were everywhere from 17. I think we had a 21-inch track. We got it on here. That's the kind of things we're looking for: footprints. Other footprints from Stinchcomb. Then in December of 2021, Ryan took a very interesting call from the naturalist at Chandler Park in Tulsa, and a footprint had been found there that was huge, and 17 inches, and they wanted us to come take a look at it. And you say, Chandler Park, Tulsa? Come on, Tulsa? Well, Chandler Park, if you know where that's at, it's on the outskirts of Tulsa on the northwest side, and it's right on the Arkansas River. So, from the park you can see the river. And so, this was in March, right? No, December. So you're thinking in the wintertime, not many people are going to be going barefoot on the trails with a 17-inch foot, but could be moving from the river up through the park, hitting dumpsters or something like that. So Ryan and Jim Mordecai cast the print. Here's some other tracks that were found in Stinchcomb, and the one that we brought tonight I'll show you from home of it. But in order to make a comparison, Ryan cast his foot, which is an average size 10 human foot, so that you can compare it to the cast of a Sasquatch track. And you can see the differences. How thin it is, our foot and our toes are crammed together. Why is that? Because we wear shoes. Most of us wear shoes all, from the time we're little bitty, and it just compresses your foot. And you see the archway, and in this one there's no arch. The typical Sasquatch track has a very flat foot hinged in the middle, probably because of the weight load that they bear. So these are some footprints from the Stinchcomb area, and if you notice, they're very wide, and in this one you can see the mid-tarsal, what's called the mid-tarsal flexion in the middle of the foot, because the foot is believed to be hinged. So when they step, the heel comes up and then pushes off and leaves that little ridge. But you notice that those are very wide, flat, toes are separated. We're also looking for footage like FLIR, which is forward-looking infrared, is what FLIR stands for. The thermal imaging, body heat. So when we go out on investigations or out on expeditions, we have FLIR equipment that we're looking for things giving off body heat. And there's some FLIR footage you can watch from one of our expeditions over at Hayburn Lake. We're also putting out audio recorders and hoping to capture vocalizations. Let me try this one.
static.
It's not so much a howl, it's more of a whoop and or a long drawn out whoop. And you notice how they either trail down or trail up at the end, which is different than like, say, coyotes. Also, the nice thing about on audio, you can have a spectrograph. You can see the megahertz of each vocalization, and you can compare that vocalization, typical megahertz level on that, to like the megahertz on, say, a coyote howl or something like that, which is generally much higher. Frequently, they will get the coyotes started once they start. Let's see. Those were captured at Hayburn Lake, over near Kellyville, and this was from down at on Honan Creek back in 2019. I did send that one to an organization that analyzes vocalizations, and they could not, and they're in South Carolina, and they could not match it to any known bird or animal. Anyway, so vocalizations is another evidence we're looking for. Tree structures, tree twists, just anything, you know, we try to, as we go through the woods, we're looking for stuff that just stands out as unusual. It's not typical of what you would find with normal wildlife. So we're looking for twists, things like that, brush structures, tree bows, that sort of thing. There's some different tree structures. No, we don't. We don't know if it's a, sometimes it's, well, we thought, oh, it's pointing toward a water source, or it's pointing toward a food source, or it's a territorial marker, or from what we kind of experienced, we kind of think they live in small clans, small family clans, but sometimes the older males, or I'm sorry, the younger males get booted out, and that's where you see some of the single ones running around that maybe cause a little more mischief. So we think that's kind of their population structure, and possibly they use these tree structures, stick structures, they use them as some kind of a marker, saying this is my territory, or this territory is occupied, or we just don't know exactly why they do it.
Whatever, this plane climbed the tree and it fell sideways.
Yeah. What's interesting about some of these tree structures, and on Derek's place, they're real interesting. He has one that is right on a trail, a main trail, and it's a very triangular looking structure, but right next to it is one that he's named the portal, and it's built in a circle, and it really looks weird, and you think you don't want to step through that because it looks like a portal. And why, who knows why, what it means, we don't know what it means. It's really, really interesting, and it's huge. It would definitely take some effort to build that. But what you can't see on some of these tree bows is what we look for now. We try to discount. We try to look, say, is it storm damage? Because again, we have a lot of ice storms, wind storms, all that kind of stuff. So we try to first decide, okay, is this something that could have happened in a storm? If that doesn't work out, then we begin to say, to look at how it's constructed. Things are woven together, and on a lot of the tree bows, we noticed that when you've been over it, then there's something, either another log, or there was one I found in Stinchcomb where it had wrapped greenbrier all around the top of that tree to hold it down. A live greenbrier. So, you know that's not wind or something like that when it's like wrapped around and around, tying it down. So, on some of the larger structures we look at, like this one here, is it something humans could have built? How heavy are those logs? Would it take several humans to build something like that? Or are the sticks small enough that, you know, a group of Boy Scouts or something could build that as an emergency shelter or something? And, you know, in the case of things like this ground nest or something like that. But we try to document all of it and study it as much as we can. The X formations, what does that mean? But to humans, it means keep out. But it may not mean the same thing to them. It could just be the edge of a territory or something like that. I don't know. That's the kind of evidence. As far as DNA evidence, we haven't found any hair samples so far. We found on a river bar in the middle of the North Canadian River near El Reno, we found a 22-inch scat, a piece of poop, 22 inches long and about 3 or 4 inches around, in the middle of the river on a sandbar. No tracks around, no footprints around it, so I don't know how that happened, but that is huge. And but nobody volunteered to collect that.
Well, some researchers, y'all.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, we had heard from some of our fellow researchers in Michigan that had collected some fecal material, and the guy that collected it got very sick and was in the hospital for a long time, and they said he had some kind of virus that he picked up that they had no treatment for. So be very careful, when you're collecting that.
We were literally debating if we do collect it and bag it up, whose freezer are we going to take this one to?
Yeah.
Send it to Cold Guard.
So
Maybe that.
So yeah, we would love to find something where we could get some DNA material off of it, and then the other thing with DNA is that it's so expensive to process. After that happened, I called the DNA Solutions place in Oklahoma City, which is one of the largest DNA labs in Oklahoma, and asked them if I had a sample I wanted to send in from a wildlife sample that I wanted processed, what would that cost? And they said $3,000. So that kind of puts it, out of our budget to be able to.
I got a suggestion about the trees.
Okay.
So what if instead of it means how many there are? So top. What's that? Left. That could mean something like group occupies that territory.
Yeah.
And the A, what if that means as if family or a larger group?
Yeah.
No, the single one, maybe that means only one lives around, occupies the territory, and the two, so you can get the point about that.
I think that's a very valid theory. I mean, we just don't know, but sure, yeah, we're looking for things like that. So, but anyway, now there was a DNA study done in Texas where a researcher asked for some samples to be submitted. She got over 100 samples. That was the Melvin Ketchum DNA study. Everything in the Bigfoot world is controversial, and so there was a lot of controversy over how that was done. Although, if you really look into it, you'll find that she did it correctly. She sent out her results to 5 different places and asked for them to check her results, make sure it was done properly. A couple of them called her and said, "What have you got here?" And she said, "I don't know, you tell me, what do you think I've got?" And they said, "Well, okay, just don't use our name, but you found something." And so but a lot of controversy around that. She couldn't get anybody to publish her results, so she bought a journal and published it herself, and that caused a lot of so that one's a lot of up in the air. However, she did send the results to Gene Bank, which is the human DNA lab or human DNA registry, yeah. And they wouldn't accept it, but she sent it to Zoo Bank, which is the animal DNA registry, and they accepted it and they assigned a scientific name, a Latin name, to the sample. And then we just found out that North Carolina State University, a professor there, has got permission from the research division of their university to do another DNA study. This looks like a very legit, worthwhile study, and they're in the process of putting out announcements together, asking people all across the continent if you have what you believe is a Sasquatch sample of DNA, something with DNA in it, then please send it to us. And so we're going to try to keep up with that study and see what they find, and if they can replicate the results that Dr. Ketchum found. So it's interesting. But what Dr. Ketchum found was a hybrid human something cross. Human DNA, she said about 10,000 to 30,000 years ago they crossed. So that would be controversial in itself. But anyway, so that's the kind of evidence that we're looking for. Okay, we mentioned tribal traditions, and so I think I'm now going to turn it over to Ryan. He's going to talk about sightings, reporting, and the database.
All right, so like he asked earlier, raise your hand if you have a Bigfoot sighting or story you might want to share at the end. If you personally have one, if you have a family member that's had a sighting that you know about, if you have a friend, if you know, we would really appreciate if you would come forward and share with us at the very end when everyone's gone. I'd like to take your information. We can, text, call, email. We'd like to get as many reports as we can. So the way about doing that is going to our website, and up here at the top, there's I'm just going to go to contact us, which I think Evan's already showed. But so figure out which part of the state you're in. This would be the best way to do it. You can always email any one of us, and it's going to get back to the right people. But like if you go to our website, if you live in the southeast Oklahoma, you're going to want to contact Troy Hudson. Okay. If you live in northeast Oklahoma, you can contact me or any of these other people on this list: Jim Mordecai, Jody Chisholm, Jody Lloyd. Southwest, you contact Evans or any of these other guys, Tom or Michael Barton. And then we got one guy in northwest Oklahoma. Has anybody ever driven through northwest Oklahoma? I'm originally from the heart of northwest Oklahoma, so I know exactly what it's like. It's very flat, wheat fields as far as the eye can see. Not typically a place where you would think there's Bigfoot reports, but we do have a guy in Enid. His name's Brian Terrell. He does a great job. And he thinks there's more sightings than you would think in northwest Oklahoma. There's in northwest Oklahoma, there's going to be pockets of trees.
Yeah.
So he says, hey, you know what? You're taking all the guesswork out for me. In southeast Oklahoma, it's, how many miles of just forest is it? Now it's right here. And I know where to go. And he calls it a funnel system. He knows they'll funnel out and travel across the pasture and stuff. He's like, this is helpful actually when it's just these pockets. I know where to go and look. That's where the trees are. That's where the forest is. So anyway, there are sightings in northwest Oklahoma. If you do have one or know someone that has one, he would be a great person to contact. But like I said, you can contact any of us. All I have to do is go to the website, just click on any of these names, and it'll go straight to our email, and you start typing your message. Just click on the names on the website. I also have cards up here, and Evans has some cards on the table. Please grab one tonight as you're leaving. If you didn't want to speak up tonight, please contact us later. We'll email, text, call, whatever we want to talk to you. So that's how you would find us. So just go to the website, find us on the contact us. Okay, let's go to sightings. I'll go to sightings map. Okay, so here's our sightings map that I kind of put together. Now, for this sightings map, I only did Class A Bigfoot sightings. Does anybody know what Class A means? If I say Class A Bigfoot sightings, you know what I'm talking about? What does that mean? Okay. So there's three levels of Bigfoot sightings. Class A is you actually saw it with your own eyes. It could be a daytime sighting, which would be the best, or it could be a nighttime sighting, like you saw it through your car headlights. It was at night with the car headlights shone on it, and you saw it. At the Class A nighttime sighting. Okay, so that's the best one you can have. Then there's Class B encounters, which would be evidence like you heard vocalizations on your property and you just know it wasn't anything else. You're convinced it was a Bigfoot. Found tracks, that's a Class B sighting. You didn't see the creature, but you found its tracks. You collected hair samples. That's all Class B type Bigfoot sightings. Then you have Class C sightings, which basically is you're passing along, it wasn't your personal encounter. You're passing along a story to us that happened to someone else. So we can't ask you direct questions because you weren't the actual witness, but you're relaying the story to us. So you're kind of the middleman. So you're passing along just a story that's not actually yours, but you're passing along to us. So that's Class C. And we like to get those too. If you know somebody and you can tell their story, love to hear it. So these are all Class A sightings on the map where they actually saw the Bigfoot. So most all these are like pretty accurate where it happened. Some of them are general. Oh, sure.
Sorry about that.
Oh, he's just fine.
Okay, so you can see we do have more sightings than this, just not Class A sightings. So these are all the ones across the state that we have so far that they actually saw the creature. Okay.
Ones reported to us.
Yeah, they're reported to us. We didn't take this. We didn't take these from the BFRO. We didn't steal these from other databases, or not steal, but borrow or share or borrow. These are ones where our investigators actually talked to the witness on the phone. We talked through them through email. We talked through them through Messenger. We contacted them. Some already sent email. Okay, so or face to face. We went to their house and talked to them. Okay, so all of our investigators contacted these witnesses somehow. So anyway, you can get on there and browse around. If you click on one, I'll just click on this one right here. Okay, so it'll bring up the whole report right there, and you can read about it. Okay, you can see it's a Class A and what year it happened, what county it's in, all that kind of stuff. So that's just the Class A map. Okay, so that's there for you to check out anytime you want to. Now I'm going to go to the database. So this is our database. This is going to be Class A sightings, Class B, and Class C, everything. Okay, and I'm going to go through and share a few of them with you tonight. I always like to show the stories where the eyewitness actually provides a drawing of what they saw. So that's the ones I'm going to show. I'm going to shortly paraphrase the encounter. I'm not going to read the whole thing or anything like that. I'm just going to shortly paraphrase kind of what happened. Show you the drawings. For me, the drawings are better than like a blurry blob squatch photo. Does anybody know what I mean when I say blob squatch photo? I mean, it's like a dark circle or a dark, something. And it probably was a Bigfoot. I probably believe you, but I'm not really getting to see details. So when I'm looking at these drawings, yes, they're drawings, but I mean, this is more like what the person saw, especially if they drew. So that's just my favorite part about this whole thing is talking to the witnesses, getting their stories, and actually seeing like drawings that they provide. I think that's so cool when they do that. So the way you do that is just go to the database page, and you can click here. Where it says click here. You can click on the picture. It's going to bring up this weird chart-looking thing, and it might be overwhelming at first, but it's really not. It's really not that confusing. Hopefully, it brings it up. Please bring it up. Okay, it worked. One time it didn't bring it up at a library presentation, and that like threw off the whole presentation. All right, so it brings up this big chart-looking thing, and it's really not that hard to read. So if you go over here, I have it in by year. Okay, so like it starts. We got our first ones in the 1950s, 1957, and so on and so on. So all you do, if you want to read the full report, like I'm going to look at this one right here. It says 1961, and it says number 110. If you go right here at these, I guess those are arrows, it'll say expand record. Just click on those arrows and it pulls up the whole report. You can read the whole report nice and easy. Okay? So this was in 1961. This was a boy, how old does it say he is? He was 5 years old when this happened. Okay, in 1961, the Patterson-Gimlin footage hasn't come out yet. Does anybody know the Patterson-Gimlin film? It's usually the one on the news. When they do a news story, they always show that. Okay. All right, this is before that came out. Okay, so before that came out, people didn't see Bigfoot on TV. They didn't know the term Bigfoot. It just really wasn't a thing yet. Okay, so he's a 5-year-old boy. He's going to go play in the creek close to his house. And he takes his shoes off because he knows if he goes walking around the creek getting it muddy, his mom's going to get mad. So he ties the laces and wraps them around his shoulders and has his shoes hanging from his shoulders. Okay, and he's wading through the creek. And he's looking down in the water, and I think, I have to read it, but I think he saw the reflection, or I think he kind of saw a reflection, and then he looked up and then he saw the creature. So he actually provided a drawing. Oh gosh. Oops, so this was in, oh, that's not the right thing. Sorry. Error. Where am I? There we go. Okay. So this was in 1961 in Pontotoc County, Oklahoma. And I'm going to go, this is the original drawing here. All right, so he was walking down the creek, he was looking in the water, kind of saw, oh, I know what it was. Now I remember. He didn't see a reflection, he saw the foot in the water. He saw a foot in the water. And he looks up, and he sees that Bigfoot, like behind the tree, kind of peeking around type of thing. Okay, so, I mean, our witnesses aren't always going to be the best artists, and I don't think he did a bad job. Yeah, it's pretty good, right? But they're not always the best artists in the world, but I mean, it's so cool to like actually have a real eyewitness drawing like that. And I added some color. I did this, he didn't say it was this color, I just added some, just, I don't know, to make it look a little cooler on the website. Anyway, so that's the first one I want to talk about. Oh, I want to say one more thing about this report. So, he didn't know what word to tell his parents when he went home, like what he saw. He ran home, kind of scared, whatever. He didn't know what word to call it, so I can't remember what he called it. But they moved from that area of Oklahoma, and they moved up into Kansas City later. I think it was 10 years later on the news. Around 10 years later. 1967 is when the Patterson-Gimlin footage came out. So it was either 67 or later. But he was at his house in Kansas City. He moved away from this area. His parents always believed him, but they didn't really know what to think about it. Well, he saw the Patterson-Gimlin footage on the news. He's like, "That's it. Get in here, Mom, Dad. Get in here. That's what I saw." And then they like, "Oh my gosh." They like believed him, and like made more sense to them like, when they saw it. So that was kind of cool. He saw it later, and he actually like show something to his parents, like that's what I saw, instead of just not really having a good word to describe it to them. Okay, I gotta go to my cheat sheet here. I do have cheat sheets. I'm sorry. Okay, number 112. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Oh, I know. Looking for number 112. I think it was in the 90s. No. Should have been better prepared. Thank you. That helps. Yes, thank you. Good eye. Alright, okay. So I'm going to expand on the form there. Okay. So I like this one because he provided a drawing and it's two native brothers. So we're the Native Bigfoot Research Organization. These are actually native people that experienced this. So this was 1997, Seminole County, Class A, daytime sighting. So they saw it in daylight. And this one, he didn't see it from the front. He just saw it from the back. He was with his brother. I think they were playing chase or tag or something. They were just playing, being boys, and he ended up seeing the back of it. And so this was the drawing that he supplied. So, I mean, that's what he saw from the back. And so, I mean, I think that's amazing. I'm going to show you another one that's similar to this, but there's a little bit more, the full bodies in it. But I mean, it looks a lot like this. So I like the consistency with the drawings. Okay, so that was that one. Now we're going to go to around Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Yeah, number 40. All right. We're looking for number 42 if someone can. There it is. Okay, man sees Bigfoot along Highway 10. So this was in the Northeast District of Oklahoma, Adair County, 2010, around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So this was a roadside encounter. So this guy wasn't on foot. He was in the safety of his vehicle, just driving by, saw the Bigfoot, kept going. I haven't seen a Bigfoot yet. I'm into this, and I've had encounters, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but I haven't seen a Bigfoot yet. But if I got to choose the way I saw one, I would choose the roadside encounter because I'm in my vehicle and I can drive with it as fast as I want.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, we don't get to choose how we encounter Bigfoot if we're out there. We don't get to choose that. But if we did, that's what I would choose. So this guy was in his car. He was driving, and I like this one because he gave the detail of how the left hand was touching the top of the fence post, and it was like in the description he says it was straight down, like the arm was just straight, like in the drawing. It wasn't bent; it was just straight down. I mean, look how much taller it is than the fence. And like I said, it's similar to that other one because it's from the back. He only saw it from the back. He didn't ever see it turn around, but that's what he saw when he drove by. So I just think that's cool to kind of get a glimpse of what they saw. And one thing that I wish we could go back is if we got this encounter report like hours after it happened or minutes after it happened, if we could drive there and go like collect the fence post. We want to collect the DNA off that fence post because what's that DNA called? What's it called when they just touch it?
The sebum, the oil from the skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I wish we could collect that and go back, but I got this a few years after it happened, and so we can't do that. But I think that's really cool.
So is the height of that fence, is that like normal, like what we consider normal?
How tall are chain link fences?
4 foot.
My fence at home is a 6-foot fence. It's the height of me, but
6
chain.
foot, but the others are 4. The normal
Okay,
one that you see
yeah.
around
So that's going to be around 4
Yeah.
foot. Yeah. So it's towering.
You'd have had to slow down, yeah.
Walk it out and look at
I went back and forth.
I went back looking. I had to look.
There we go. And this witness, every once in a while, the witness will actually give us the exact spot that they saw it, like on the map I showed you earlier. They don't always want to share that. Why would that be? Why would they want to share where they saw the Bigfoot?
They don't want people going out
back
there.
over there.
They don't want people going over there. What else? Somebody said something. Okay. Well, oh, yes.
You said you drive away. Are these things violent? Or are they friendly?
Well,
What-
I'm saying that I'm kind of a weenie. That's what I'm saying. They might not be violent, and there's a lot of talk about that.
Sometimes.
I'll go ahead and answer the question. There's a lot of talk about that. There are friendly ones where people like never felt threatened, and then there are encounters where that was like they did feel threatened. And
Just
they were
don't
scared.
take their beef jerky.
Yeah. So Troy, the head person of NOBRO, we call it NOBRO, Native American Bigfoot Research Organization. He said it like this, and I kind of like this. He says they're kind of like us. We have good people in the world, and we got bad people in the world. Okay, we got nice people, friendly, and we got people that commit crimes and are in prison. Okay, we have different levels of people. So I guess they have different levels too. So sometimes they're gonna be threatening or whatever, and sometimes they're gonna be peaceful. Yes, sir.
I was telling my buddy here, my grandma told me I'm going to have pumpkin and have turkey. And she told me that they're staged and they're little, they're like a light brown, and when they get bigger, like teenage years, those are the ones that are the most mischief. They're like a red color, like a red tint. Those are the ones that will throw rocks at you,
Okay.
and scare you, and things like that. And when they get older, the older ones, they just get like calm and
Yeah.
walk away. And then when they get real old, like the one I seen, it was like a smoke white color.
Okay. So the teenagers like the ones that are doing the pranks and throwing the rocks. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. That That makes a lot of sense.
It could be a Bigfoot that had a bad experience with a human, got shot at, you know.
Well, any other vehicle, there are good and bad. I mean, there's different, they all have their personalities.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, they're taught too, whether to be friendly or not friendly to humans by the environment that they encounter.
Yeah, it might-
Humans in, you know, so.
It might be based on past experiences with humans.
Yeah.
So back to this. Another reason is that you're on your personal property and you wouldn't want to share your pinpoint exactly where your Bigfoot sighting happened because it was on your property. Well, he was just driving by. He didn't mind sharing, so because it wasn't his property. So anyway, that's where he saw it. So it's on our database in there for your viewing pleasures. I'll show you a couple more here. I'm trying to hurry along, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. This one. What year was yours, Evan? Is that one picture? 2014. Thank you. 2014. It's number 76. I'm at 2014.
So, with yes.
Number 76. Oh, no. I really want to show this. Maybe I can do this. No. I'm looking for number 76. Can't see it. Yeah. Oh, there it is. All right, we got it. All right, this is a report that Evans took. Okay, and this one isn't a drawing. It's actually a photo that the guy took. You want to kind of just briefly say what happened?
Yeah, he had just bought, not so long before that, bought a vacation home on Tin Killer and was fishing by himself in his boat and pulled into a cove. When he pulled in, movement caught his eye, and he looked to the back of the cove, and this thing was getting out of the water and running back in the woods. He just grabbed the camera, snapped the picture, grabbed his phone, snapped the picture, and I, you know.
Really, can you blow it up?
It's pretty blurry, but
Is it going away or is it coming this way?
Well, I don't know.
There's a reflection.
We don't get
yeah,
that.
The bottom part is a reflection.
Yeah.
The top part is the creature.
yeah.
So, go ahead.
But anyway, it really shook him up. Whatever he looked at, and I'm not sure that's a picture of the creature, just a stump squatch or what. You know, he wasn't sure. He was like fumbling around, grab his phone and trying to click something. But he's actually a retired Midwest City detective, and immediately the hairs on the back when he saw that movement and looked down there and saw that immediately the hairs on the back of his neck went up, and he knew something's not right. This isn't a normal creature. And he had never really even thought about Bigfoot before, but when he saw that, you know, in fact, he's good friends with my brother. He was so shook up, he called my brother in Tubman and told him about it, and my brother said, "You need to call my brother and tell him about it." So that's what he did. But yeah, it shook him up pretty good, and you know, he lifelong career as a police officer. Still that
Probably not someone who scares easy.
right, that bothered him.
All right, I'm going to show you one more. This one's pretty cool because we just got this one pretty recent. We do presentations like this. We're used to being in like a library, so we've been doing library presentations around the Oklahoma City metro area. And the very last one that we did, there was a lady in the audience. She came up to us after it was over. She just talked about her property, like, "Hey, I got stuff going on my property," and she invited us to come out. So we did. We went out to her property. Well, comes to find out, her 88 or 89-year-old mom. Her mom. She actually saw the creature. They're next door neighbors. They live a quarter of a mile apart. Okay, so the mom saw it behind her house one night, and then all the while the daughter's living a quarter mile over here getting activity. The side of her house was slapped. She thought it was a thunderstorm. There was a slap on the side of the house. Found prints, all kinds of stuff. So I really like that because we got that lead from doing these presentations. We never would have went there and known any of this. It wouldn't have been for doing these presentations. So the 80-ish mom, and she was very articulate, could speak very well. We did an over-the-phone interview with her. She described it in really good detail. And so she actually drew it, and it came out really, really good. Let's see here. Yeah, it's this one. Okay, I think she said it was more slender, like this. Okay, so look at the legs. Look how long those legs are. And when she saw it, it was in stride, walking, and she said it took huge steps, and so she stressed that on this drawing, how huge the steps were. But she saw out her back window, it was like, I think midnight or something. She had woken up, she went to go feed her dogs or water her dogs. She said she sat down for like 20 minutes, and she went back, she went to the bathroom, went to the bathroom, and she looked out her bathroom window, like through the blinds, I guess, I'm trying to remember. And she just saw it, just walking along her fence back there in her backyard. And she talked to the daughter, like, the next day, and said, hey, go look for tracks. And the daughter found some tracks in some part of their property. So we never would have got that lead if it wouldn't have been for doing presentations like this. So I'm hoping that we get some good stuff.
Yeah,
and talk to some good people tonight.
In her story, she said she thought it was odd that she woke up at that particular time, and when she was in the bathroom, something just said, look out the window. And that's what she saw. So she just got a weird feeling.
And she was also a person that did not believe in Bigfoot before this. She, just thought, I don't know if she thought it was ridiculous, but she thought it was silly, didn't believe in that stuff, but now she's a knower. So that's pretty cool. So that's all I have for right.
Would you pull up Derek's?
Yeah.
Report? I think the picture of the portal is good for there. I'd like to show some of those.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, these are yours.
Sozo's Wi-Fi. You want to talk about your friends or anything?
Yeah, so everything I tell you.
Sure.
Yeah, so in March we were actually out on our land. We have 360 acres. It's divided in half by a fence, right in the middle, so 180 acres on each side. This one particular side we go out and morel hunt. And it was early morel season, but we was going out antler shed hunting. And got to walk into Normal Creek. I always walk, find my morels on, and started noticing a bunch of trees. They had to be broke within a day or two. I mean, they were fresh. And started noticing the big ones, probably about 6 inches, had been broke. Some of them were, well, I would say probably 3 to 6 inches. Some of them were broke, some of them were bent, twisted, or split down the middle and bent over. I've got a personal picture of me standing by one that right above my head had been bent over and broke. Not broke all the way, but it had been split and twisted. And the tree was probably 2 or 3 inches. I went up and tried to bend it myself and could not even budge it. And so I started noticing trees like this all over the property. Not necessarily all over the property, but in a line down this creek. So I just kept following and just kept finding more stuff like this. And I've been through these woods my whole life and never noticed anything like this at all. And so anyways, the next day or two, I got with my uncle, who's actually, it's family property. My uncle's the actual owner of the property, and he's highly skeptical. So I'm seeing all this stuff. I'm saying, hey, this is weird to me. I've never seen anything like this. And by the end of the day, he said, yeah, something weird's going on. And so anyways, as time goes on, I contacted NOBRO right off the bat. As time went on, I found more and more, and it's all on this area. Well, I went to the other half of the property that's fenced off, isolated, cows on both sides. Been around cattle my whole life. On this side, you find these type of bends and breaks. On the other side, you can't find one anywhere near, like similar. So we, as you see here, there's a tree bent over the trail. We found a couple of those where the trees just pulled over the trail. You did see a buck skull. And within a 30-foot radius, I found a buck skull, a spike skull, a doe skull, and some cow bones. And what little I know is they feed on deer and they typically eat in the same area. What you're looking at here is right next to the structure, and this is what we deem the portal. So it's probably 15 feet in the air, 16. It's pretty tall. Worked all the way around. So I've set up recorders and set up cameras in this area for a while. This was early spring again. Right here we're walking near the structure, which is right beside the portal. And so we found all these trees. This is an area we call the nest. Right behind that log it's all briars in a big circle, but the middle of it has been flattened. And the tree here on the right side, you see the bigger tree running across horizontally, and then right in front of it there's a tree that's bent over. That's about 5 feet in the air, and it's been bent over. There's no trail, no cattle trail or anything that runs to that area. So how that tree got bent in that manner, it's kind of, watch, there's another tree bent over the trail.
Snapped on,
Yeah. So the area we call the portal is kind of a teepee-like structure. The tree is about 8 inches around. Some of them are local from right there, and then a couple of them, there's no stump to associate the tree to. So it appears that they had been brought to the area to make that structure. There's a couple other structures on the side, not as big as that one, but where the trees just kind of appeared. I don't know how, there's no local stump to identify with. So.
And you had some vocalizations?
Yeah, so I contacted NOBRO, and Evan said, I was talking to Evans and Ryan through another woman named Jody, and was told, go put a recorder out, look for footprints. And so literally, I've always been a skeptic, I'd like to see one and believe it, until all this happened. So I went out, the very first time I went out and put a recorder out, recorded a large tree breaking, and it wasn't like a small animal crawling out a tree. It was a very large tree break and branches breaking. Went out, and there's a creek bed there's 2 islands of trees separate, and there's a creek that runs down the middle, and they run out through the field before it ties into the other island of trees. And went out, and me and my son found what looked like a footprint. And it was this first one here, over here on this tray. So we poured, it looked like a footprint, couldn't see the bottom of it, poured plaster in it, went back later that evening and pulled it out, and sure enough, it looked like it had toes and a heel. And so we went back maybe a week later and found these 2. And so I told everybody, I said, I've always been skeptical, but every time I go look, I find more evidence, and everything I cast comes out look like a foot. And Evans and Ryan I had 4 or 5 others cast that were just big blocks of plaster. They ended up being nothing. So I got rid of those. But this creek, what interests me about this creek, it's only about 3 foot wide. And the spring, it was just, now it's covered in grass, but the spring it was all mud. And there's hundreds of cattle tracks through this creek all over. And what was weird is these stood out as footprints, and it wasn't like an intermingling of the cattle tracks or anything. You can see on the cast that there's no cattle print that's associated into the track. It was made on its own. So, the more I've looked on my land, the crazier things get. I did a recording. It was 29 hours long. I just finished it over the 4th of July to see if anything, kind of got stirred up, and got a lot, hundreds.
And you and your son got yelled at a large pond?
Yeah, so me and my son was out fishing. We got a large pond on this land, probably 3 or 4 acre pond. And we were out there fishing in a boat in the middle, and the strangest yell, growl, it sounded like, when coyotes howl, it sounds like there's 20 of them, there may be 2. Well, this sounded like something we'd never heard before. We both just looked at each other. Now he wanted to go fishing with me out there. But so I'm out there every week looking. When I find something, I try to be cautious of what I do in the area because I don't want to scare it off, and I'll set up a camera or set up an audio recorder. But, just still looking. It's hard now. The woods have got thicker, green, they're growing up, ticks are worse, and the ground's dry. So, but I still go out looking and just plan on continuing. I put out bait, apples, just trying to see if, they say they're coming apples. It's whatever I do.
You had the gifting rock.
Yeah, so we had just the edge of the woods. It's pastured, and then the edge of the woods is just covered in briars. And we noticed this one distinct trail that just, it's that wide and it just cuts straight through the briars. So I thought, well, I'll go look and see where that goes. And I walk to it, and it goes back maybe 10, 12 feet, and it's beat down and worn, and you go to a flat rock that's that big, it's on the ground, it sticks up maybe a foot or 2 off the ground, it's just flat. And the area around it is just worn where something's been in there. and then it's briars on the backside. The trail does not go through. It just ends at that rock, and behind the rock is a tree. And so I thought, that's pretty strange. So I set out. I kept meaning to take a gift and leave it on this rock, and I forgot. Well, one day I was out there and I had a golf ball with me, so I left it there. And within 2 days, it was gone. I looked all over the place for that golf ball. I haven't found it. But since then, we put a teddy bear, which is still there. Teddy bear out there. But what's interesting is the tree that was behind the rock has broke over, and it's gone. I mean, there's briars there, and the briars are on top of another tree that hadn't fell, but the briars are on top of it. And you're talking briars the size of this bar, but the actual tree that was behind the rock isn't there. Just some strange stuff we found over since March.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of concludes our presentation. We were gonna, we had some more material prepared, but we're kind of pressed for time here. So if anybody would like to stand up, share your Bigfoot encounter at this time, we welcome you to do so. Just everybody else be respectful, please. Is there anybody in here interested in maybe sharing?
Just got a question.
Okay.
What does their growl sound like? Does it sound like a bull? Growl, low guttural growl. Y'all have any idea?
I haven't been growled at.
A lot of people, I mean, that's the words they use is low
Whoever
guttural.
falls down there, I used to hunt down there one time, window fox. There's his land down there. And I had brush hogged up over 360 acres in that area. Exactly the acres, but I brush hogged the whole thing. But there's trees all over it and brush piles, and I had hunting stand, which was fantastic hunting. And I went in there one morning carrying my 270, my had the little short flashlights, they don't shine over it. Walking in there, and something growled at me, and there was no cows in that pasture at all. It wasn't a bull, and it's deep guttural growl. It's like a bull elephant growl I've heard on TV.
Could you feel it?
Well, I'll tell you what, it shook me to the bones there, and my 270, I started looking at it, and I hurried to step up here. Couldn't shine that little flashlight anyway, because it was just nothing like a trail. That's how it worked with it. You know, warning deer hunt.
What we've heard is descriptions of vocalizations when someone's close is that you actually, it's like being at a rock concert in front of the speaker, you feel it as well as hear it. You can actually feel the percussion.
I relived this all again. This is like 1997.
Wow. That's great. All right.
Anybody else have a story to share?
I've got one more question.
Oh, okay.
I hunt down McAllister too. I had been hunting down there. And every season I've had my box, take stone box stand down there. And I get up there, and most of everybody down there in that area were from that one camp that I was in, my cousin's camp. And they all had box blinds. Every season somebody's out there like kind of like they're building a stand. But it don't make no sense because it's right next to it's only cage stunts, 1,000 acres inside of Paul Fields going.
Yeah.
So they've harassed the pig hunters like that before. I mean, I'm way back off the road.
I've had hunters tell me that.
3 miles back.
I've had hunters tell me that. I've been out in the woods deer hunting. I've heard those knocks, and I thought it was just maybe somebody chopping
Sound like
firewood.
somebody, yeah, but there's no.
But they say it only knocks once or twice, and then he quits, and then a little while later he'll do it again. So,
And everybody I was hunting with was in the woods hunting.
yeah.
I don't know. Going over this, but this is what I kind of experienced.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that.
Someone back over here. Raise their hand.
I have a question.
Okay.
Have you watched the Todd Sandy documentaries?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I don't know. Now, we have a member of our group that has seen them up close and said that they did, that one that he saw that they nicknamed, where there was a habituation site in Tennessee, Kentucky, and said that the one that they called, they had a name for her.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Said it did look like the one that Todd called Matilda. It did look like that. He said it looked like that.
Because that's very, what, about 5 of them, and they all look different.
Yeah. But that one real fuzzy, furry, redhead Matilda, to me it looked kind of like a Muppet, but I mean,
That guy's something else. He'll
Yeah.
go through the woods like that.
but yeah, he does get out in the woods. He gets out
Be a
there.
survivor, man, then
Yeah.
that's what you do.
I can't hardly knock anybody that gets out there in the woods and tries, spends time out there, boots on the ground. Yeah. Anybody else?
Does it have to be in Oklahoma?
No.
No.
Oh, in that case. So I used to live in Florida, and I was out fishing out in swamplands with a buddy of mine, and all of a sudden this horrible stench. So we started looking at the tree lines, and you could see a tall silhouette just walking the tree lines. Never saw it again though.
What did it smell like? Well, you could describe the odor.
It almost smells like year-old skunk. I mean, it's a smell that sticks with you. And, down there it's the skunk gate, so.
Yeah. And we kind of mentioned Bigfoot in different cultures. North America, South America, well, just about every continent. But I had read a report from Florida where a fencing crew was working, and the supervisor was, an American, white man, but the crew was from Guatemala, and they were building a fence on some property that had just been purchased near the Everglades. And so, there's a lot of activity going on, hammering and, driving fence posts and stuff like that. And the supervisor looks down the fence line, and at the end of the fence line, there's a skunk ape standing there watching these guys work. And he gets all excited and starts yelling and pointing, and they all look down there and they're like, and in Spanish they called it the old man of the mountain. To them it was no big deal. It's just like, yeah, whatever. They just kept working. He was freaking out, wanting to leave, and they just kept on. No big deal. Yes, sir.
Well, if it's another state, my wife's a travel nurse, and we were in Reno, Nevada, and we went over Donner Pass. I don't know if anybody's ever been over Donner Pass over to Sacramento, but there's a rest area right at the top of the mountain as you're going over. We were going up at my wife's Jeep. We stopped at that rest area and put the top up because it was raining, and we heard something scream kind of like that on TV. And needless to say, we were wet by the time we got to Sacramento. And I got back in that Jeep, and we went.
Wow.
It was a scary sound.
Was that daytime or nighttime?
Nighttime, dusk. It started raining on us, so we pulled over to put the top up. No, didn't stay that long.
It's amazing how many reports we hear of and have seen online from rest stops. And I don't know if they hang around there because of the dumpsters, trash, or they find an easy meal or something. It's just weird.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I got one in Arkansas.
Arkansas? Okay.
My grandfather, he was a truck driver. He go everywhere. Farthest I've ever been from Oklahoma is Missouri. And he went to his field to collect sod right next to Boggy Creek.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, Josh, can you go over there? He left something over there. There's a whole bunch of brush. I think he left some paper towels over there or something. He was over there, he was just drinking, and he was drinking I think it was like a Coke. And he was just looking out at the sunset, and he goes, I left my paper towel over there. I said, okay. So I went over there and grabbed it. And then I smelled this. And then when I got back, and I was like, this smell, it just smells terrible. He goes, what it smells like? And he goes, because some of the workers would use the restroom around there because there was no restrooms around. I was like, I know the smell of excrement. That's not it. Smelled more like skunk and testosterone. That's what it smelled like.
It smelled like.
And then he goes, I'll go over there with you. I said, okay. So we walk over there to the end of the brush. It's like the creek goes this way, then the brush exits out like that, like a oval sort of way. We went to the edge of it. I said, what are we going to do now? He goes, we're going to walk towards the creek. I said, the creek? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So we walked that way.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We walked over there, and I walked over there. We looked on the ground in the mud surrounding the creek. There's a tree. It had been bent over. It was one of those single ones.
Sorry.
Yeah. We have quite a few of those on our property. But Papa goes, that's what I call him. I call him Papa. So he goes, look at that. I said, what about it? He goes, have you never seen the movie Boggy Creek? I said, no. He goes, that's one of the signs. I said, okay. I didn't even know there was a documentary about it.
I want to add something to that because I've never heard it described this way, and he really did know it. So, I grew up raising primates. So my grandmother raised exotic animals and just got into monkeys, and so we had 60 monkeys for 30 years. And we actually just got out of business probably 8 years ago. So I know what a monkey smells like. I don't think Sasquatch, my personal belief is Sasquatch isn't full primate, but maybe part hybrid. But what I'm saying is you describe a skunk and testosterone smell, and that's exactly what I would describe a monkey odor as.
Yeah. And we went over there, the mud. There was this tree. And right at the edge of this tree, it was like bending, and then it like hit the water. Like it was like stuck in the water. Like we pulled it out, and
You already sit on my lap, bro.
what are you sharing? And we look right at the edge. And there are footprints, half in and half out of the water. I asked my grandfather, said, what are those? He goes, that's, Josh, is Bigfoot. We didn't get any castings because we didn't know what to do.
How large would you estimate the footprint were?
Well, that big. It didn't look too big, but it was the wideness that got me. The wideness, it was about yay wide. Circle back over there, did this. Yeah, it freaked me out. My grandfather, he was all cool. He was like it was another day. I was like, how are you not freaked out over this? And he goes, I work next to Boggy Creek. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any more people want to come forward? Okay.
In the back.
You got the back corner. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, somebody tell you first. Go ahead.
All right, my name's Jim, and I'm the guy that came to see today.
Yep.
Early February, actually February 3rd, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I had a Class 8 sighting, 30 feet away from me.
Oh, wow.
I got an 85-pound lab mix. The dog's not scared of nothing. Right? In fact, I walked him away so he would eat the guys when they came over the hill.
Might step out just a little bit, Jim, and speak up.
They, I had not been asleep. I was wide awake. Okay? I just went into the bedroom, laid down, all the lights off in the house, and you've been off for quite a while, so I had good night vision going. I'm ex-military. I'm a spec ops guy. I know what the hell I saw. Right? Been in the wildlife field hunting, fishing all my life. What I saw was not a deer, it was not an elk, it was not a freaking bear. When bears walk on their hind legs, they don't have arm swing. They don't stride. What I saw was approximately 8 foot tall, and I'm guessing about 800 freaking pounds. And it had arm swing. Okay? My dog was terrified. It went, excuse my language, back crazy. I got a cat. The cat went underneath the bed and was hiding. The dog just went just nuts. And then he jumped up on the bed, put himself between me and the window. I had a clear, unobstructed view. Right? No blind, well, there's a blind on the window, but it's all the way up, for the most part. And clear shot. The dog, shaking in fear, growling intensely, and when it happened so fast, I'm like, okay, I've got a prowler outside, something's going on. The neighborhood where I live at, it's on the edge of town, and it's very poor living. There's a dumpster, just not too far away. You guys remember back in early February, we just come off some pretty cold weather, and we had some ice and snow in the area, right? Plus we had the drought last year. I'm thinking it's not opportunistic either. He went to that dumpster and was having a buffet. I think he got startled because he jumped across a couple fences at a 6-foot height. Didn't climb them. There's a single footprint and successional footprints alternating left and right, but they were not castable. The grass was mashed down. Right? Cleared a second fence. Same thing, a couple steps, turned and went to a waterway. Great big drainage ditch. Dog, I didn't go outside dark, 2 o'clock in the morning. The moon was almost full. I didn't get a good look at it. All I got was the left profile. I'm going to tell you, the report's on their website, they posted it. Its head's shaped like a gorilla. It sits low on the neck, low on the shoulders. And best I can describe the size of it. I put it in there. It's on the thing. You guys know what sumo wrestling is, right?
Yeah.
You guys know who Akibono was? Or is?
Yeah.
I know Chad Rowan. Right? I used to live in Japan for a lot of years. Right? Chad Rowan is 6'8", 535 pounds in his prime. Okay, Chad Rowan was small. He's Akibono. That's his Japanese name. Okay? Like I said, when I sold about 8 foot roughly, approximately, I guess 800 pounds. The width of it on its chest, from front to back, depth-wise, right, was about that wide. It almost filled up the entire window pane. And his arm on the left, was real long, had some hair hanging. When the arm went by, it was in stride when he crossed the window. Across the window, of course, 1 step. The dog was just terrified. I got some neighbors that got dogs, but I couldn't hear any of their animals making noise because of my dog. It was intense. The dog has never been like that, ever. That's the only time. The dog was actually freaking terrified. But he put himself between me and the wall on the window, trying to protect me. He was so scared. And just shaking. That's my time. I got a good look at it. Its head shaped like a gorilla. It's freaking huge. Oh, the footprints outside where the grass was mashed down, they were about where the toe area, the tarsal, about 8 inches wide there, and kind of tapered a little bit in the grass. That's what I forgot to tell you guys. But they were about 17 inches long, the grass that was smashed down. But there was no discernible actual footprint pattern because of the grass, being there. But in between each step was approximately 7 feet.
Jim's report is on our database. It's the newest report.
Yeah, it's posted on Facebook.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm from South Bunch, Adair County. And I come back, well, I grew up in the city. And I come back home, I grew up listening to my grandpa tell stories about him. In Ponca, we call him Bizonga, the interior man. And he always said they follow the water. He always told us, boys, you're young, you got to go play. He said, when it gets dark, boys, or sunset, get off that water. He said, because his zombie comes out. He said, he will take you. He said, don't be playing in it. Don't be playing by the river. And I always thought, I was a young kid, I thought I was invincible, I never ran into nothing. Me and my brothers always ran around all night playing, sliding around as we got older. we hear things, you know, hear different things hauling around the river. See, I live up around the, well, I lived up by the Chicago and Saltville. And, you know, there's people told me stories about seeing them bathe in the water early in the morning or in the evening. You see them fishing, you know, grabbing stuff out of the water. You know, there's even people said it, like you said, come up to the dumpsters on a reservation. I lived on a Tonkwell reservation, you know, and it's right by the Chicago. And, you know, that's my grandpa always told us that. But when I came back home, like I said, I never seen one or just heard things. We was down here in South Bunch, right out there by Starkiller Lake, you know, where bad things going on right now over there. But me and my wife was sitting there, and she's from up around Oaks, Oklahoma, you know.
Yeah.
And we were down there, and we're sitting there folding clothes, and she's happy to, you know, she came back home. She was visiting for a little while. Came back home and we're folding clothes. I said, Dave, I like talking with you, but I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to work in the morning. You know, I had about 5 blue tick hounds. I mean, the hound dogs are supposed to not be scared of anything. They hunt, you know. Man, them dogs were going crazy, and one was yelping. And my wife, I said, look out that window. Somebody's bothering them dogs. We had my window open, and it was probably about 4.5 feet off the ground, you know. And she looks out there. She's only about this tall, you know. I'm standing there looking, trying. I can't see, you know. I'm blind, and I can see, but you know what I mean. It's fuzzy. And I said, look out there, somebody's bothering my dogs, you know. She looks out there and she says, baby, there's somebody trying to grab your dog. And we had a barbed wire fence with a yard lock. And I said, watch him. You know, I reached under my bed to get a, you know, a little shotgun I had. And she says, I don't know what that is, you know. And I looked out there, this thing was bent down like going like this to my dog. And that dog was on its chain going like this, trying to get away from it. So I reached under the bed to grab it. About that time, I hear her give this scream. That man, if you heard that scream, he probably would have ran into that wall, you know, trying to get away. And she turns and she just takes off running. She don't know where she's going. Our little daughter's laying on the bed, 3 years old. I have to grab her and say, baby, you know, and she turns back and I grab baby and hand her to her, get my little shotgun, and I run by and tell my cousin, get up, man, there's something outside. We go outside, and as we're going outside, this thing's standing in a, you can see it, like he said, it looked like a gorilla, but its head was shaped like an A, like this, you know. And you could, on the top here, you see how my hair is? It had hair like this. And it was big, but it wasn't like 800 pounds or nothing. It was about this wide. And it was about this tall. And when its arms were standing there, you see how our arms are? This was past its knees. And when it took off running, it didn't run like this. It threw both its feet up like this. And there's a little field probably. The next house to me was my uncle, great uncle's. And it crossed this thing like, if I just, I mean, there was more steps, but just giving y'all something to visualize, it could cross this in like about 3 steps, like one, you know, about 3 steps it could cross to that door right there. That's how I was jumping. And there's a big old blackberry bush in the field there, and it was standing behind that bush, and everybody says its eyes glow red or like a dog's eyes glow. This eyes I seen were like a dark Nemo green. I had a flashlight on it real good where I could see it. And it was like a smoke white color, you know, and it had, you could see black right here, but white right here. The rest of its body was like that color. And it kept going like this at us. You know, it kept going like this, and everybody's getting scared standing on the porch. And I got the little shotgun, and my grandpa always said, don't shoot them, leave them alone. They got family too. Talking about the little ones and the wife and, you know, everything. He said, they're just like us, you know, us, as Indians. He said, but they're from way back, you know. And this thing wasn't trying to act mean, it just was like curious, you know, it kept looking at us.
Did you get the feeling that it was an older one?
It was, all I can say, how I thought about it, how it felt to me, it was a female. Because it wasn't trying to attack or throw stuff or nothing, it just kept like just watching us, you know. And finally it turned and went off the side of the hill, and there's a bluff down there where the road runs, you know, the dirt roads by the lake. That bluff's about 40-foot drop, you know, well, not straight down, but you know, the section, you know, when you go down, it goes down like this, you know, and it took off down that side of that hill. And that's the last time we ever heard of it. I think what happened is my great uncle's house was vacated for like maybe 10 years, nobody lived there. And I think it was crossing to go to the lake, you know, and eat or whatever, because that blackberry bush stood about this tall. You know, and heck, when I went, like you saying, the footprints, it was springtime, well, summertime, and and the grass was smashed down, but its foot wasn't this wide like those. It was about this long, and it was probably about this wide, like that. Yeah. And when I tried to go and jump in its stride, I couldn't do it. I took off, backed up, took off running and jumped. I couldn't make the stride. That's how wide it stepped. Yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I was kind of curious. Has there been any reports? Has anybody heard any reports from out around Brushy Lake? It just looks like a good area. So I just kind of wondered if there was any reports from that area.
There was a while back when I was younger. They talked of one. See, Brushy Lake and all the lakes where I live at, there's like 7 watersheds, or well, lakes you call it watersheds, but they run into each other out in bunch. And one person told us they was fishing Brushy about, I was about 14 or 15. And I come to visit my dad here in Southsaw. He lived down here at his apartment. And there's our cousin. He's a big man. He's like almost 7 foot tall. And he said that he was fishing. He said it on the, I guess you'd say north end of it. You know how the dam's more towards Southsaw, and the water runs in from the north. He said he was fishing on by the dam part there. He said on the north end where the creek runs into the lake. He said that something come out of there, and it was like a light tan color, and it was big, muscular. He said it walked into the water about so far like this, and it stuck its head down like that and was drinking water. He said you could see the water running off this right here. And he's 7 foot, about what, right there? He said it's about like this. Yeah. He said it turned and went back toward the north. So he was scary. Yeah. He was a big man too. So he didn't want to mess with it.